Welcome to KMX Behind the Curtain, and this is episode number 4. In today's episode, we're going to be speaking to pro wrestler Darian, who's taken his experience from being part of one of the most prestigious acting schools in the UK and turned that into a wrestler where he's now training under QT Marshall at the Nightmare Factory. And also, did he really do yoga with DDP? Now let's get behind the curtain with Darian. Darian to KMX Behind the Curtain.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for joining us. You are joining us from the wonderful world that is America.
Yes, I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia.
Nice. So we're going to interview today. We'll start right at the beginning with yourself. So wrestling, where did you start?
So wrestling, where I started, I enjoyed it growing up. I was born in Waterloo, Iowa, which is where the Wrestling Hall of Fame is. And my dad was an amateur wrestler. But I was never, I don't know, there was something about it. Like, I started in a really weird place. I started watching WWE ECW and TNA, and which I feel like for a lot of people, like they really don't like WWE ECW. So that's kind of where my fandom started, weirdly. And then I found myself years later living in London as an actor. I'd gone to the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama and got my degree in classical acting from there. And I had a really kind of like rough altercation where a director who is a dame of the British Empire that will not be named essentially assaulted me. She cut all of my hair off during a rehearsal. And I was just kind of really fed up with acting. Still love it. I still do it. I still am an actor and all of that, but I just needed something else. And the person who was running lights and sound for the show was saying like, hey, I do lights and sound for a show called Lucha Britania in Bethnal Green. And if you want to get away, like they're such welcoming people and it'd be such a great place to perform. And after that, I'd gotten signed to a really large agency in the UK, and they were telling me they want me as an actor, but also as a sports model. They wanted me to get involved in sports. And they said they had someone on their books who was going to Lucha. And so all of the stars just kind of aligned. That other person ended up being Anthony Ogogo.
Yeah.
And so I show up there and instantly just fell in love.
Wow. Yeah. So that's like you've taken a negative and it's kind of turned it into a positive because you found wrestling through your acting, and obviously you talk about your situation you had there, and then just someone purely on light said try Lucha Britania.
Yeah.
And then obviously this agency said, oh yeah, we've got someone else going along to there, Anthony Ogogo. Oh, we'll go. And everyone doesn't know who Anthony Ogogo is. British boxer. I was in the Olympics. Yeah, he was in the Olympics. Yeah, I think bronze medal. And he's now wrestling for AEW. So literally you've gone from acting to wrestling. You've turned up to the Resgal in Bethnal Green on your own. What was your first thoughts when you walked in?
I was really nervous. So I had looked online, like I was taking the recommendation that Rose had given me to come to Lucha, and I saw like the website, and I saw that like Rey Mysterio had done a seminar, and their alumni and things like that. And I was really nervous. I showed up. Aaliyah James was the first person I met.
Yep.
When I showed up. She was really kind and welcoming to me, as well as Murdoch. And such a new world, so nervous. And at the same time, like, although I'd been living in London for a couple of years at that point, I'm still a foreigner and, just am really kind of careful culturally and things like that. So I turned up and hit that warm up, just like everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Fall in love with that warm up.
Yes.
And I was addicted like day one.
How did you find the warm up? Because when I turned up, someone said, enjoy the warm up. And I was like, what are you talking about? They said, it's like a rave. And I was like, okay. And I literally started and I was like, okay, yeah, I totally get what they're talking about now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm quite shy as a person, and to be like in the situation where everyone is kind of looking goofy and we're dancing and we're doing all the stuff at the same time, getting a really good workout was so much fun. And it was so, it really set the mood for me to be open to trying things once it came time to actually start, wrestling.
And how did you find that transition from acting to wrestling? So obviously they do kind of go hand in hand in terms of what you've learned from your acting, bringing it into wrestling. Do you find it helped having that background?
Yeah, especially like I've done a lot of study on the history of theater and the history of acting when it comes to methodology and things like that. And it's almost an exact parallel to wrestling and wrestling structure. You can break almost every part of wrestling into 3-act structure, just like you would a play. A lot of it's so Chekhovian or Shakespearean. So I found it really interesting seeing how it works. And you have people that are quite naturalistic. They're themselves turned up to 11. You have people that are quite far away from themselves. And so things like promos came quite naturally to me. And that's kind of where I was starting to make waves, where people were, I was standing out. And so that was really big. And so it's a good transition. And learning how to accentuate things, make them big, was really, really great. So for me, it was a perfect transition, because I think what my goal is as a wrestler, as a performer, because I have a hard time labeling myself because I do so many different things. I don't like calling myself an actor or wrestler. I think artist is kind of the term I like. And we have all these people. We have these Brock Lesnar's, these Ronda Rousey's, these Anthony Ogogos, who are athletes from other sports who bring the legitimacy to wrestling from a sports perspective. But what I want to do is I want to bring the legitimacy to wrestling from an art perspective. Because at the end of the day, The Rock is the biggest movie star in the world, but I don't think anyone really takes him seriously as an actor. He's not winning an Oscar anytime soon.
No.
And for me, they just go, that's that wrestler when it comes to The Rock. I went to the top drama school in the world. You're not going to tell me that I'm not an actor. So that's what I want to do. I want to bring legitimacy to it as an art form as well as a sport.
And with Lucha, obviously, it is very, as you talk about, it's turn yourself up to 11. Did you find there was anyone at the school that obviously you kind of connected with in that art form sort of way? Because there's people like Cara Noir that are there, who is pure art in terms of what he does inside and outside of the ring and that persona he puts across. Did you find you took anything from that and obviously learned from that?
Yes, I'm a huge fan of Cara Noir. And there's a video on YouTube, I think it's called Art is Wrestling or something, Wrestling is Art. And he talks about the state of play, which is a big thing. And it's a huge thing in acting.
For me, I go in with sections of matches where they're completely blank. I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I'm going to play and see what happens. I want to see how the audience are going to respond to it. I want to see how my opponent's going to respond to it. And it could completely go pear-shaped, but also I could find something that I've never even thought of before in the moment of play. I think play is really important because it's where you find the most about yourself as an individual.
The biggest correlation between acting and wrestling I find is confidence is an energy that can really make or break your performance. And specifically with wrestling, the minute you're second guessing yourself is when people get hurt, is when things go wrong, the promos mess up. And it's the same thing in acting. You have to have this sort of state of play. You need to be out there and exploring and having fun, even if it's serious, even if you're in pain. That state of play is what makes the magic happen.
And did you find there was any difference with obviously the acting? Because obviously you're going into the wrestling world and there's that more kind of physical side of things. So trying to put across how you're feeling in that wrestling match, but also feeling it in pain sometimes, because it's not always going to be painless. There will be times when it is very painful. Did you find that was difficult in trying to kind of put that across when you actually were going through pain inside and you were trying to change your face so it didn't look like you were in as much pain?
For me, it was almost easier. Instead of it being 100% mental imagination of pain, where it would be with acting, you have the physical response, I've taken a chop from Kosta K. I've taken, I've been formed by Malik. I know it,
That's the one I'm not going nowhere near Malik. That's fine. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah. So it's just a catalyst. It's a stimulus for that emotional connection. And so for me, it's almost easier to just get to that place for me.
And with your obviously time in London, you're obviously not in London anymore. Obviously, you moved back to America. You did have a short run in the Triple L under a stable. Talk to me about that quickly, the people you were with, and then obviously the end. It was quite a sudden end to that sort of stable because you had to move back.
Yes. The stable is the New Blood, which was a name given to us by Greg Burridge. It is myself, it is Mark Rowe, and it is Keenan Nazurg. We kind of came together because I was hitting it hard. I was training really, really hard, like 5 times a week, private and regular class. And one day, Keenan had come to London. He is originally from Manchester. Saw me training, and was asking me just like, "Oh, how long have you been training?" And I'd said only like 2 months, and he was really blown away by that. He thought I'd been wrestling for years, and so we really connected because he's really clean. He's really sharp. He's been doing it for a really long time, even though he's only 20 years old. And so we had that connection. And Mark had been turning up with Anthony with the Go-Go, and he has a very strong gymnastics background. And there was something really beautiful about all of us kind of coming here at exactly the same time. We're all around the same age. I like to say that to help myself because I'm quite a bit older than them. But we're all kind of the same age. We're from 3 very different cultures. Myself being from America. Keenan is from Manchester. He's also Indian. And then Mark is an Essex boy. And we're just 3 very different people that had come into our lives at kind of the same time. And Greg was just like, "Yeah, you're the New Blood." And it was just kind of something he would say passively. Deep down, I think it's because Greg's a big Vampiro fan. And I think Vampiro had a stable called the New Blood in WCW. So I think Greg is our Vampiro, and we're the New Blood, and that's how that started. But it was crazy. It was a really fast turnaround because I think I was a month in. I was a month into training, and I got contacted to be an extra for Ring of Honor. So I'd never done a practice match at this point, and then Greg booked me on a Triple L show, and we were going to plant the seeds of this stable forming, and yeah, that's how it happened.
Nice. And so obviously you've been, I heard a lot about you. Obviously we are crossed in path, cross at the Lucha, but I got a lot of information from people about yourselves, and obviously this new stable coming through, all these young guys coming through, and like people were very, very much raving about you. But then as soon as you come along, you were gone. And it was kind of like your last match. What happened there? How did that feel? Obviously, just starting something new and then suddenly having it taken away so quick.
It was easily probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through. Essentially what had happened was I was up for visa renewal, and I had a corporate sponsor and was working. And basically they had changed, when Theresa May was in office, she changed the rule that allowed students that held a certain degree from a high caliber school in England to be able to stay. But just for like my year and the year before me in terms of graduating class. But I would have been okay with my corporate sponsor through my agency. But with Brexit, it actually changed the immigration rules for artists across the board, European, American, whatever. And so I went from, I wanted to stay in London forever. I still do. And I'm still represented by my agency. Hopefully I will return. But I had all these plans. I had a flat. I had all this stuff. And just like that, it was gone.
Yeah.
And I had so many wonderful people helping me out. Dan Reed, tons of just gracious, like really wonderful people trying to help me out with my visas. And at the end of the day, the pandemic hits. Right at the same time that I'm going through all this stuff. And I had lawyers, and they thought I was going to win my case, but the virus happened. They went, "You just need to go home. Like there's nothing we can do for you." So pandemic hits. I get sent back to America. Really short notice. I had like 7 days notice to leave the country. So I got to have my last match at the Resgal with Callum Newman.
Yep.
Which was such a gift. It was only my second singles. And yeah, amazing experience.
And how was that for you, like personally, like obviously going into that match, obviously with Callum's come through, Lucha as well. And he's a big star. He's sure to be a big star. We've done a track for him as well. We're doing a follow-up track for him as well soon. But how was that for you personally, going into that match, your entrance, your music hitting, but you knowing that's your last match at the Resgal for the time being, for the foreseeable?
Yeah, it was so dramatic. It was so heavy because we put the stipulation loser leaves lucha. Um, so there was just, everything about it was, this is final. This is serious. This is final. And Callum is someone who, even though I look up to him quite a bit, is, I don't know, 6 years younger than me, or, so, but it was just something where it's like, I don't think Callum would consider himself the big time, but for me, it was like, that's the next step. Like, I'm
Yeah.
to be in a match with him. And it was so emotional knowing that Anthony was there, the new blood was there, Greg was there, like all these people. There was just, there's something really bittersweet and send-offish about it. But I'd broken my finger 4 days before the match. I'm still messed up, but so I was still like in cast. I was still in a cast and everything. And it was just, this couldn't be any more dramatic. This couldn't be any more like a final moment than it is. And yeah, really, really emotional for me.
Yeah. Was that, how did the emotion come out of you as the obviously went down 1, 2, 3? How did it feel at that moment?
It was so sad because I still didn't want to accept the fact that I had to leave the country and leave all of my friends and my life and my, everything I had started there. And it was the symbolism, of like, that's it, you're going home. And, I got up after Callum dropped me on my head, and, all my friends come to the ring and everyone's crying. And, they did the send off for me where they all lifted me up on their shoulders and the whole crowd like gave me an ovation. And yeah, it was so like,
was it an unexpected sort of emotion? Obviously, the crowd getting involved and everyone obviously being inside and knowing how you're feeling, and they're all feeling it for you because obviously they don't want you to go. If anything, I'm sure you probably wanted to kick out as well. And you said, no, it's not happening. No, this is all not happening.
Yeah,
obviously, there had to be that to happen to obviously lead to where you are now.
Definitely, like I said, I was so fast tracked because at that point I had only been wrestling 5 months or something. And the fact that I had fans, I had people chanting for me. I had people chanting for us since like January, like people who knew who we were. And part of that was from our promos online and things like that. So it was just to have that overwhelming amount of support and know that in these short 5 months, like I've made lifelong friends. I've made a community, a family away from home, and it was gone, that was really, really rough.
Yeah. So we've talked about the wrestling starting, obviously where it looked like it might end, but obviously with wrestling, you can do wrestling anything. You've gone back to America and you've actually kind of excelled there. Whereabouts are you now training?
So I currently train at the Nightmare Factory, which is headed by QT Marshall, Cody Rhodes, Glacier from WCW. QT's partner Carolyn is the strength and conditioning coach. Dr. Luther is a trainer there, and a wrestler named Eric Havoc as well are all trainers there. I'm there consistently, working really hard. I train with Anthony Gogo there, and yeah, that's where I'm at currently. I've had a couple places, stepstones between there. I trained at Windy Wine in Missouri with Niles Planquet and Moonshine Mantell. I trained at the Underground with Micah Taylor. And so it's like I've almost become this kind of like wrestling mutt, where I have training from like radically different styles, because Windy Wine is an offshoot of Harley Race's academy. So I've had this British training, which, lucha is British, American, Mexican, Japanese, all
a
in
full
one.
fusion as such.
Yeah, and then Harley Race, old school Southern wrestling. Micah Taylor went through the OVW and the Mid-South system, so he's a WWE Jim Cornette product. And then you have the Nightmare Factory, which is, the AEW essentially. And so it's just like I've had this big blend, which I've really been blessed to experience and see all these different styles and just, build me in different directions as a performer.
And you find that obviously going from all these different schools, you've taken bits from each one to kind of go, oh, I like that, and it's kind of then blended all together to like make you a better performer.
Definitely. And I've been so lucky that all of my trainers have been such nice people and have put me in the right places to have certain experiences. When I was with Windy Wine, I was afforded the opportunity to work for the company SWE, and through there I got to work with Road Warrior Animal like a month before his passing, and have him offered me feedback and watch my match. And so it's like these experiences I've been so lucky to be able to have, through Anthony, and I've been able to work with DDP, and DDP give me advice and things like that. So it's been unbelievable.
And the thing is, before we started recording, you were telling me today you were with DDP doing yoga.
Oh yeah, I did the DDP wide this morning.
Yeah,
at Dallas's. It was super hard.
How is that? How is that actually doing yoga with DDP?
So he's amazing. His miss is amazing. Like, they're so good at it. So you have me and Anthony that are breaking sweat and like trying so hard to stretch, and Dallas is perfect split. And he's a big dude, so he's like 6'4", 6'5", just leg in the air, behind his head, doing all that, showing us up, us youngsters. And he's immaculate. He just released his film Relentless.
Yep, on Amazon Prime, you can get it now.
Yes, for free, and it's so good. Dallas is so good, and DDPY works. All the wrestlers I know here stand by it. Helpful for everyone. So yeah.
Talking about Amazon Prime, obviously, going Lucha, I'll throw these in there because I saw today Will Ospreay's documentary, who's a alumni of Lucha. Obviously, his documentary coming out on Amazon Prime today. Also, your trainer, QT Marshall, his story about his tryout at WWE. That's also on Amazon Prime. So there's 3 very good documentaries about wrestling there. And you link with all 3 of them.
Yeah. Well,
Ospreay, and you've only been around for a year.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's been 1 calendar year. My first match was November of 2019. So yeah, just past a year.
That's the end of part 1 of our interview with Darian. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe to this channel, and you'll be notified when part 2 is going to be released. In that interview, we're going to talk to Darian about how one of his family members is behind one of the most popular wedding songs I'm sure we've all danced to. We're going to talk to him about the inspiration behind the name of his track, and also that first ever listen to his brand new track.